It's not a spectrum. It's a binary. There's only those two options.
I really wish that we had caught that.
I don't even know what you said.
Shelby said something about
one of the titles in here is Adventures of a Debauched Woman.
Yeah, and I was like, ooh, I love a fallen woman. Anyway, I'm having such a flashback to Lania's class because Shannon already mentioned Panopticon at least 4 times. And now we're talking about women who are
fallen
bad.
Women? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know.
I don't know what's happening anymore. All right, let's get this started.
I don't love that Chekhov died of tuberculosis, but it just makes my life so much happier.
Oh my god. For everyone else, Hannah has found herself on Russian TikTok, and
I fucking love it. I'm having the time of my life.
Interesting time.
Oh my god, that's all I do. Like, if I go to the bathroom at work, I pull up Google Translate and I just translate like 4 videos.
Oh my god.
It's a good time. I'm not at all, like, going crazy from being isolated.
no, not at all. Okay, can I do the intro?
Yep.
Yes, I suppose.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what's the intro? Hi, everybody. You're listening to the Triad, where we're spooky but sensitive. I'm Shannon.
I'm Shelby.
And I'm Hannah.
Yay. Okay, do we have any announcements?
I love Russian TikTok so much.
I went to an antique store today and found lots of haunted, spooky shit.
There you go.
I was just looking for
I did not buy any
candlesticks,
of the haunted, spooky shit, though.
Yeah, I was slightly concerned when you sent me those paintings that those were going to end up in our home. So, glad that didn't happen.
Not those two, but I did have a couple other ones that I almost got.
Okay, almost.
Look, there were like 800 Raggedy Ann dolls there, too, so, like, that might happen at some point.
I have a Raggedy Ann doll.
No.
But not like the one from the fucking Conjuring or whatever.
Annabelle?
Yeah, that one. She's I don't know. Wasn't she mentioned? It's a series. They're all connected. There's a nun. I don't know.
What just happened to Discord?
I think I'm having a stroke.
What happened?
Did I tell you guys about our store ghost, Annabelle?
Yes, you did.
About what?
Okay. Well, have I told it on the podcast?
No.
What is happening?
Nothing. What's happening?
Sorry, Discord just went like completely black, so I was just making sure it was still working.
I want to find this candlestick that I looked at all day at work on IKEA.
Anyway, our store ghost, Annabelle, the store I work at in the mall is haunted, and we named her Annabelle because we used to sell a, like, replica Annabelle doll from the movie. And...
So a Raggedy Ann with attitude?
No, the one from, like, The Conjuring, the, like, spooky with the, like, red braids or whatever. It doesn't look like a Raggedy Ann, but...
No, because the real Annabelle is...
Yeah, the real Annabelle is a Raggedy Ann doll. And she is in Las Vegas in Zach Bacon's museum. But, I believe, maybe. She's in some museum. And
I think she's in the Warrens.
Right. Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Zach Bacon's has all the other haunted dolls.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so they, like, named the store ghost Annabelle after her. And then now we have, like, this little plush doll of Annabelle from the movie. I think it's, like, the Funko doll or something. I don't know. It's a little plush doll of Annabelle. Doesn't matter. So we have that, and it sits at, like, the registers and everything, and we use that as, like, that is her little host body. That's where she lives.
Her vessel.
Yeah. But people started messing with the doll. Like, someone pierced her ears, and then they, like, were taking the little, like, pointy things from the sensors, the little, like, pins and stuff, and, like, gave her legs and, like, all these things. They were messing with Annabelle, and for, like, that entire week, everything went wrong. Like, everything that could possibly go wrong in the store went wrong. It was so bad.
I'm sorry, but if you tell a ghost that it can live in a place and then you fuck with the place, you're just kind of asking for it. Right?
Right. So, like, now we have it. It's, like, in our work group chat that, like, you cannot mess with Annabelle. So, anyway, usually she's pretty good. She's fine. She's not a big deal, but she'll just, like, laugh at you. Sometimes. The other day I had a male voice tell me thank you when I picked something up off the floor. And one of our coworkers, she swears that she's seen a male ghost, or like she'll like see a guy like walk across the store, but then when she looks again, no one is there. So we also think there might be a male ghost, and she named it Harold, which I cannot do Harold because
Why?
as
Why
Lindsay
do people
knows,
pick the bad...
Harold the doll haunts me.
Why?
But anyway, so that's the cursed dolls in my life. So anyway, Shannon, what are we talking about?
Oh yeah, I forgot we had a reason for...
Also, real quick, my apartment is not haunted. It was just a fluke for one day, apparently, because nothing since then has happened. So,
well, that is
your ghost friend was just
someone was just
surfing.
messing with a Ouija board, and then they got spooked and stopped.
I guess. I don't know. Okay, so I have a PowerPoint and an outline. It's in the episodes folder for episode 33, or it should be anyway. Yeah, it is. Okay, so today we are talking about Bass Reeves. Do either of you know who this person is?
Nope.
Okay, so
maybe. I'm pretty sure I don't, though.
Okay, so I mean, just because I need to talk about it right away. He was the first Black Deputy U.S. Marshal. And because it is Black History Month, I wanted to focus on something like, within that topic. So, my sources, I didn't actually use that first one because they were going to make me pay for it. So, I'm going to get rid of that one.
We don't pay for things.
The only thing I paid for was the Washington Post because I literally had to if I wanted to do Watergate. Okay, so...
I mean, I did give Wikipedia $10 this year, so,
that's
I
different.
guess I paid for them.
Okay, so, sources. Shockingly, I have Wikipedia. I have a Legends of America entry. I have a Washington Post article. I have something from, the History Channel. I have something from oklahomahistory.org. And then... Is this the National Park Service? Yes, it is. Okay. I just have the link. I don't have actually what it says. Okay, so just a couple notes before I actually get into the story. So, first off, just something on terminology I'm going to be using. So, I'm going to be referencing policies and lands which affected Native American tribes at the time. So when possible, I'm going to refer to the actual tribes as that's more accurate and it's what's preferred by Native Americans. And when that isn't possible, I'm going to say Native American. Okay. So I actually Googled this because as I'm sure we all are aware, this topic is pretty hotly debated, both within and outside of those communities. And I researched this as best I could, and Native American seems to be the best term that I as a white person can use. Apparently there's debate about the word Indian, quote unquote, being used at all, even though American Indian is what's used in the census, because it was used as a slur in the past, but then there are some people who don't care. So I'm just going to say Native American. That being said, we are talking about what is now Oklahoma, but we're going to talk about it before it was Oklahoma. And at the time, it was called Indian Territory. That was its official name. So that's what I am also going to use because that's, historically accurate. That being said, I am sorry if I'm using the wrong terminology.
Please let us know.
You could just call it Pro-Oklahoma, which is pre-Oklahoma.
No. Okay.
Okay, just a suggestion.
Just so you guys are aware, my forehead is bleeding, so...
Okay. Joey, what the fuck?
What? Why?
Was that what that crash was?
No. This is old. I like burned myself with a curling iron and then picked up the scab, but yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. Why can't we be normal?
Anyway, Oklahoma, before it was Oklahoma. Let's go.
Okay, I have another note before we actually get into the thing, and it's on the U.S.
Also,
Marshals.
I really like your title page. That's pretty.
Thank you.
I totally thought it, no offense, I'm dyslexic, I really thought it said Bob Ross when I first saw it. And I was like, why are we having a Bob Ross episode?
No.
Also, Oklahoma was the first musical I ever saw.
Okay, so a note on the U.S. Marshals. So I'll get into this more later, but U.S. Marshals are basically federal cops. And currently, they operate with even less oversight and more fatality than regular cops.
Awesome.
And so, like, obviously I wanted to cover this because Bass was the first Black Deputy Marshal, and I think that that's super significant for a wide variety of reasons, which I will get into later. But I do kind of have, like, mixed feelings about covering it during Black History Month, given the current state of the Marshals and, like, our general current fight against police brutality. But, you know, I think we have to take Bass's story without applying a modern context to it, which is how you're supposed to study history anyway. There's like a term within history called a historical anachronism, and that basically means you're looking at a past era through a modern lens, and you're applying like modern context and social norms and morals and all this stuff to past events, and that's going to color your perception of the era, and that's not the correct way to study history.
I was going to say that would make your perception inaccurate.
Exactly. And like one of the things I know, Hannah, you and I had to talk about this during one of our classes, was that a lot of behavior that like Lewis Carrol, who is the author of Alice in Wonderland, a lot of the behavior he exhibited, and others, it wasn't just him, would nowadays be termed like pedophilia, but back then it was just normal behavior.
Yeah, but he was probably also a pedophile.
I mean, maybe, but...
he was really creepy about that one girl.
Yeah, so...
I would say one of the, like, biggest examples is probably the Baby It's Cold Outside song.
Yeah, that's a big one, too.
Because that one, in today's context, is very, like, rape culture, very uncomfortable and everything. But, like, if you look at it in the context of, like, the 1940s and everything, it's not, so...
Exactly. Yeah.
But like really quick, the Lewis Carrol thing, I say that because he was just obsessed with one child. It wasn't he was like, oh, all little girls are so cute and they're cute to take pictures of them in their underwear. He was like, this one girl, I'm going to put her in sexually explicit poses and take pictures of her. And that's why I say he was a pedophile, because he was like super creepy just to that one kid. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, and then like the debate with that is that at the time, like a naked child's form was considered pure and angelic, and so there were naked children just everywhere, and so that's
they were like on postcards and everything, and no one gave a shit, which is fine. But then when you are just obsessed with your neighbor's child,
that's weird.
I'm saying that's where the difference lies. I don't know, whatever.
Okay. Anyway, all this to say, like,
you have to look at history from the historical perspective.
Yeah. Bass Reeves' achievements were, like, really remarkable, especially considering the time period, because this was in, like, the late 1800s. And so, like, they deserve to be celebrated, and we just have to balance that with remembering policing as we know it didn't really exist during Bass's lifetime, and it especially didn't exist the way we know it, like, in the area in which he lived. And just so another way to balance this out is... just like with it being Black History Month, I would encourage everyone, if they can, to donate to a BIPOC charity this month. You know, as I said, if you can. If you can't, obviously, don't like beat yourself up about it. That isn't something that everybody can do. And if you can't, you know, just try to educate yourselves about aspects about Black history, which you may not be familiar. Like, I had no idea about this guy until I think I saw it on a fucking Tumblr post.
That's how I've, like, found all of my information on this, like, on Black History Month. All of it has been, like, someone posted it on Instagram, or, like, it was on a Tumblr post, or it was on Twitter, and I'm like, why is this the first time I'm ever hearing about any of these people?
Exactly.
So.
And so, yeah, just find your own way to celebrate Black History Month as best you can. And then with the U.S. Marshals, this actually came out yesterday, which is why I added all this in today because I saw this article. So there's this article called, it's U.S. Marshals act like local police with more violence and less accountability, which I think sums up, obviously, the entirety of that article. So it's by the Marshal Project. It's Marshall with 2 L's, not 1 L. The names are not related whatsoever. It's a nonprofit, like, journalism site that focuses specifically on criminal justice. It was founded by a former New York Times editor. And so, like, the Marshal Project, just as an example, they were co-publishers of a Pulitzer Prize-winning article called An Unbelievable Story of Rape in 2015, which became the Netflix series Unbelievable, which is a really good show, by the way.
That show makes me angry.
I know, but it's so good.
No, it's good. It's fantastic, but
God, I know.
Makes me angry.
Yeah. And so the article goes into detail about, like, just how unaccountable the Marshals are, basically. And then I ended up donating to them today just to try to, like, do something helpful because I can do that right now. So yeah, basically we're recognizing Bass's achievements while also recognizing that currently the Marshals are terrible. So
sounds like a plan.
Bass's early years. So if you can go to the next slide, this is him. I thought about doing like what I usually do and doing screenshots of every single location, but then I was like, I don't want to do that this time because it's all roughly the same geographical area anyway. So
he's got a swanky mustache.
He does. Bass Reeves, he was born into slavery in Crawford County, Arkansas in 1838. So it was right on the border of Arkansas in what is now Oklahoma, but at the time was Indian Territory. He was enslaved by Arkansas state legislator William Steele Reeves. So in 1846, when Bass was about 8 years old, William Reeves moved the family and their slaves to Grayson County, Texas. So that area is like north of Dallas, again, right on the border of Texas and the Indian Territory. For whatever reason, he wanted to hug that area. And so I don't know when William Reeves died, but at some point he did. And Bass's enslavement was passed on to Reeves' son, Colonel George R. Reeves. So if you can go to the next slide, that's him. So George was a sheriff and legislator in Texas and a speaker of the Texas House of Representatives. He died of, this is like, I try to pad this out as much as I can. So, he died of rabies in 1882. Yeah, he had been bitten by a rabid dog. The family legend is that he had, like, shoved a child out of the way of the dog and, like, sacrificed himself, basically. But,
that
like,
sounds too nice.
We have no way of proving that.
Also, you said rabid dog, and my brain, like, cut out the dog part and was like, he got bit by a rabbit.
No.
And I was like, a rabbit gave him rabies?
I don't know if rabbits can carry rabies.
I don't know.
I will look it up right now.
Okay.
But I don't know about rabbits.
Rabbits have
And then
rabies. Small rodents like squirrels, hamsters, guinea pigs, gerbils, chipmunks, rats, and mice, and rabbits and hares are almost never found to be infected with rabies and have not been known to transmit rabies to humans.
interesting.
All right,
cool.
That's from the CDC.
Thank you.
The CDC.
So family legend also says that after he contracted rabies and started exhibiting symptoms, they basically locked him in this is a quote from the Wikipedia article, it was just written so perfectly, in a, quote, wooden shed padded with mattresses to protect him from the potential self-inflicted violent tendencies associated with the disease. So they basically locked him.
Have you ever seen someone with rabies?
So they just stuck him in a padded room.
Yes.
Like, have you seen someone dying of rabies?
Yeah, it's terrifying.
It's fucking violent. It's so scary.
There's this Reddit comment that makes the rounds still on different, like, I read Ask Reddit before I go to bed. And sometimes, like, you get references to, like, the same old comment because it's, like, such a crazy story. One of them is about like rabies and how you die of rabies, because this person, I don't remember if they were a hospital worker, if they were a researcher or what, but they've like seen it and it's fucking terrifying. And so he ended up dying of hydrophobia, which is fear of water, which is a very common symptom of rabies. Like, I think rabies actually may be an explanation for early like vampire myths, if I remember correctly. I don't know why I'm just thinking
it's one of the like running theories of where the myth came from.
Yeah. And also, just so that people know, if you get bitten by something that might have rabies, go get a rabies shot immediately, because if you start exhibiting symptoms, it is too late. There is no cure for rabies. You will die.
Also, if you just get bit by something in general and it's like bad enough,
just go to the doctor.
Just go to the doctor, because you don't want cat scratch fever either. That is nasty.
Yeah.
So like you literally just like, if you get bit or scratched by an animal, go to the doctor.
Goodbye.
Yeah. He died of hydrophobia alone in a padded shed. It's just
nice.
Tragic.
Yeah.
That's how I want to go.
Yeah. And there's now a county in Texas named after him, and that's pretty much all the information I have on this poor bastard.
Like a Texas thing to do.
Yeah, let's name it. I mean, I don't want to say ignoring the slavery, because you cannot do that. But he's, it's Texas. They name a lot of stuff after slaveholders.
Yeah. Well, at this point, probably no one in the area actually knows.
Yeah. So, going back to him and Bass. So, he died in 1882, but he fought in the Confederate Army sometime after the Civil War began, and he took Bass with him. And this is actually fairly common, especially in the on the Confederate side. People would join and they would force their slaves to fight alongside them. And so it's not clear how, but at some point Bass was able to leave or escape from George. One account is that Bass and George had a fight over a card game, during or after which Bass severely beat his enslaver and fled to the Indian Territory. Regardless of how he got out, Bass did live in the Indian Territory until he was freed by the 13th Amendment in 1865. At the time, the area was populated by the Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, Choctaw, and Seminole tribes, and they had been forced there by the Indian Removal Act of 1830 under President Andrew Jackson. And during his time there, it's likely that he lived like among them, and he did learn their languages, which came in handy later. And so all of this is like corroborated in several biographies about Bass, including the card game fight, but it's impossible to know the accuracy. Other accounts have him just like up and leaving, so like we don't know. Cool. And then, so after the passage of the 13th Amendment, he returned to Arkansas and farmed near Van Buren, Arkansas, which is in the same county where he was born. In addition, he married his first wife, Nellie Jenny, in 1864. So, Bass farmed until 1875, when Isaac Parker was appointed federal judge for the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Arkansas, which also
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Wait, what? Yeah, what?
I know. Basically, he's a federal judge, and he had jurisdiction over the Indian Territory in what is now Oklahoma. I know, that's long. I should.
There was a lot of districts in there.
I know.
Okay.
Does that make sense? He is a federal judge. He has jurisdiction over the Indian Territory. That's literally all you need. I didn't realize how awkwardly that was worded until just now.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. Yes. So if you go to the next slide, this is Isaac Parker. So he was known as the hanging judge of the Old West.
He's got some interesting jowls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He kind of looks
Shannon,
like those dogs.
Squint a little. Age him like 20 years. Doesn't that look like...
Yes.
What?
Someone we know. I'm not going to say from where.
I'll bleep out his name.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say where we know him from. But Shannon knows him.
I'm trying to...
Am I right or am I right?
No, you are.
That's...
I like how it's
I'm trying
a
to
little
keep
age
this
in
as
20
vague
years.
as possible. I might bleep out the location of where we know him as well. Shelby, do you remember when there's that guy who we thought was going to end up, accidentally on purpose having an inappropriate relationship with students?
Yes.
He was,
and also, see, where my mind went when you started that sentence was that he was going to accidentally on purpose shoot a black person.
That too. Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that person.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's what he looks like.
Cool.
I'll put the SpongeBob dolphin noises over relevant parts of that statement.
I love that. We haven't gotten to use that yet.
No, we haven't. Because ever since we decided to do it, nobody said anything that needed to be bleeped out.
Well.
Now we have.
There we go. Just for you, Shannon.
Yay. Okay, so... Where was I? Yeah. So Parker was known as the hanging judge of the Old West, and hanging judge referred to like a high number of convictions, not a high number of executions. So he tried 13,490 cases over the course of his career. In more than 8,500 of those cases, the defendant either pled guilty or was convicted at trial, which is over half. So that's insane. Parker sentenced 160 people to death, but in total only 79 were executed, quote unquote only. But again,
I was going to say, wait a minute.
I know. But I mean, even for the time, like, they would hang you for looking at somebody wrong. Like,
I was going to say,
that's
like,
still
you stole a piece of bread.
Yeah. And then later in life, he favored abolition of capital punishment, which is a lawyer way of saying he didn't like the death penalty. So, the thing with jurisdiction. So, the way this was all set up at the time. So Parker's court had final jurisdiction over federal crimes in the Indian Territory from 1875 until 1889. And the Indian Territory is basically the state of Oklahoma minus the Panhandle. It was that geographical area. So the reason why we had this system set up was tribes in the Indian Territory only had jurisdiction over their own citizens, like through their tribe's legal system and legal government or whatever. So federal law filled in that gap because a native tribe could not prosecute a non-native person even for crimes committed on their own land, and that is still the case, if I remember correctly, and it causes problems sometimes.
Gonna say that sounds problematic.
But they get to govern themselves, so it's like it's a double-edged sword.
It's like half good.
Yeah,
it's like an almost okay thing.
Yeah, and so the federal law filled in that gap, and that's where Parker's court came in and filled in this legal gap. So Parker's court only had jurisdiction over non-Native American U.S. citizens. The issue was the area at the time was seen as a refuge for white lawbreakers. I'm just saying white. It was also, other races, but let's be real, it's majority white. As there was no one there to take them in or enforce any law. And it was also an area of around 75,000 square miles, so there was a lot to cover. And so, to put the danger into perspective, and I double-checked this today because I was thinking about it, and I was like, this seems fake, but it's not. So, in the history of the U.S. Marshals, there have only been about 200 who have been killed in action. 100 to 120 of those were killed in the Oklahoma Territory before it became a state.
What?
Yeah. So, it was just a no man's land.
Numbers.
Yeah, it was just a no man's land, legally. And it was insanely dangerous.
I feel like Oklahoma is still kind of that way,
Kind of, yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, does Oklahoma really exist?
DM us if you're in Oklahoma and you've murdered a Marshal.
Oh my god, yeah.
Please don't, actually. We don't want to get involved in that.
Oklahoma,
we can solve a crime.
Actually, Oklahoma has the largest prison population per capita.
Fuck you, Oklahoma.
Anywhere. No, I'm serious. If it was his own country, it would have the highest prison population per capita.
Is that...
Holy shit.
Just because that's where they put prisons because nothing happens in Oklahoma? Or is it like Oklahoma built a bunch of prisons for Oklahomans?
I think it's kind of a mix of both. Honestly, I don't know. But either way...
That was a very badly worded sentence.
No,
but
I know what you meant.
You understood.
I knew what you meant. But yeah, I don't know I don't know why. I just know that that's the stat. And it's not good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
Also, this is not relevant at all. I just wanted to discuss it.
Yes.
And I think it plays into a lot of the climate at the time that Bass was alive. So, fun fact, I guess. So, Oklahoma has a handle, right?
Yes.
The reason why is that Texas wanted to be a slave state, but the handle used to be part of Texas. It was above the 3630 line. So Texas surrendered the area in 1850 so that they could continue to be a slave state.
Rude.
Okay.
So
that's racist, but okay.
So the 3630 line, it was a result of the Missouri Compromise in the mid 1800s. I didn't write the year down, even though I should have. So the Missouri Compromise stated that any state north of the 3630 line, which is like what's the word? Oh my God, it's latitude, longitude, coordinate. Yes, thank you, God. Anyway.
We are not getting into that.
No, we're not doing that again.
God, please.
So any state north of that line, like any new state coming into the Union, being admitted to the Union, and by Union I mean the entire country because we weren't broken up into Union and Confederacy yet, if they wanted to be admitted as a state and they were above that line, they could not be a slave state. Like, that was the law. And so, yeah, Texas gave up that land in order to continue to be a slave state. And the reason we even had that line...
You look like you need a pot holder.
Yeah. It was just there was a big whole thing pre-Civil War about keeping an equal amount of slave states and non-slave states, and the line was a part of that. And so the western edge of the handle was also laid out in the Missouri Compromise, and the northern border was created by the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. And it was basically like a public use area. We don't have anything like equivalent to it nowadays, really. It didn't belong to any state or territory. So it was just kind of there, like, legally. And it wasn't open for white settlement until 1889, and it was assigned to the new Oklahoma Territory in 1890. I just wanted to
I'm gonna pretend that I followed that.
Basically, there was a dead zone of land for 40, 50 years. 40
okay,
years.
Good. That is what my brain was translating it as, but I was like, there was a lot of dates in there.
Yeah, there was a dead zone of land for about 40 years, and the reason that zone even existed was because Texas is racist. And then just as a note, also, like I said, I needed to pad this out. The Missouri Compromise was declared unconstitutional by Dred Scott versus Sanford in 1857, which is a very bad piece of law, which stated that American citizenship did not extend to black people, and that the Missouri Compromise was a limitation on slavery, which is outside the scope of Congress's powers. It also took place in the old courthouse in St. Louis.
How does everything tie back to St. Louis? I don't know.
Like, your 8th grade class fucking ruined that for everybody, right?
Yep. It was 6th grade.
You guys can't go on.
Yes, we did.
Ever. I don't know. I wasn't there.
I know. I was going to say, Hannah wasn't here at that time.
Yeah, you weren't either.
Oh, you're right.
Around in Montana. Can I tell a dark secret really quick?
Yes, you can. And I'm going to explain how we got us all banned from the old courthouse.
No, not that secret. I don't. You guys are just...
No, I'm going to tell that.
No, that was 6th grade.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I am actually a Texan.
Oh.
That's my darkest secret.
Wait, were you born there? Is that what happened?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gross.
I don't think
I was born in California, but I only lived there for 3 months.
You can have, like, cool hippie vibes and it will be totally normal, but I'm just, like, secretly, I have this dark past where... Although, I was born in San Antonio, so that's, like, a pretty cool happening place on the border, right? It's on the border,
I don't know.
I think.
That's what we'll tell ourselves.
Let me look that up really quick.
Sure, I don't know.
I was a baby.
Why are you licking my boots?
Tejas.
Can I tell a story about how we got us banned from the old courthouse? Because I think it's hilarious. So,
go for it.
Our school, like I'm sure many schools do, like every grade has like the same field trip, like a stock field trip every year. And in 6th grade, you went to the old courthouse in St. Louis. And while you're there, we did like a mock trial and like we did a bunch of other crap too. I don't remember because my brain doesn't work. So that year, we were there with a couple of other schools. We weren't doing things like with them, but they were also there. We were just on like a different like staggered kind of schedule thing. Again, if I remember correctly, I could be completely fucking wrong. Who knows? And we got back. Everything was good. And then the next day, we were told that our school was banned from having field trips from there ever again because somebody had stuck chewed up gum on a 200-year-old sewing machine.
I'm pretty sure it was one of the Dustins.
I don't know. I still don't fucking know. Like, I will never know.
I just know that in 7th grade, when I got there, because that happened in 6th grade, and I moved in 7th grade, I just know that in 7th grade, our field trip, quote-unquote, was to go into the cafeteria, and we had, like,
we had Spanish Day.
We had Spanish Day, and it was very appropriative and awful, and...
Yeah, because we were not allowed to have a field trip that year as a punishment for the year before, because they never found out who it was.
Like, the school is still banned from the courthouse.
I think so, yeah.
No, they are.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight up just not allowed to go.
I mean, it may have been somebody from one of those other schools, but they may have also been banned. I don't know. Yeah. I will never know, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just vaguely recall one of the Dustins,
it probably
like, bragging about it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true, because they tended to do that anyway, whether they committed the crime or not.
Yeah, who knows?
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so, after that fun little detour, the moral of that was Texas is racist, and that's why Oklahoma is shaped weird. So... Yes.
And that's why I regret being born there. So, although I have this chat with my friend at least once a month because she is fully intending on seceding Florida, not for, like, the South, but, like, just so that she can be, I don't know what she's called herself. I don't know, like, a dictator of Florida or whatever. But if Texas ever secedes, would I have dual citizenship? I think I would.
That would depend on...
Think about it.
I actually am thinking through this as if it's a law school final problem. That would depend on, like, how they set up their new government and whether or not they decide to grant it to you or not.
Could I be grandfathered in as a Texan?
That would depend on how they write everything up. You know, would it have to be current citizens?
Stupid.
Is it anybody with a Texas birth certificate? They would have to make that decision.
And
so I kind of know the answer.
Citizenship. I just think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you have like a 50-50
and you know what's so funny?
shot.
My sisters, their birth certificates say Great Falls, Montana. Even though they're Colombian.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm trying to buy, not to change the subject, but
fine.
I'm trying to buy a Our Lady of, how do you say this? Czestochowa icon off of Etsy, but I don't have my debit card with me. It's very frustrating.
Use PayPal.
I thought I knew my PayPal password and it told me I was wrong.
Well, then I can't.
So now I'm kind of having a panic attack.
Oh my god.
Let me try it again.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, back to our actual story. So, part of Parker's job, and Parker was the judge, part of his job was to appoint U.S. Marshals to enforce the law and arrest those who had violated it. So Parker appointed James F. Fagan, who then recruited Bass Reeves as a deputy U.S. Marshal. So Fagan was like the actual marshal, Bass Reeves was the deputy. So a lot of what I'm telling in this story is like things that are just like, people say this, but like I can't find any actual like true record of it just because of the time period, you know? So yeah. There are some accounts which state that Bass had sometimes served as like a scout and a guide for marshals in the past when they had gone into Indian Territory, but I don't know how accurate that is. Regardless, Fagan had heard that Reeves knew the languages, that should say, sorry, I did a typo in there, languages and customs of the Native Americans.
Oh, wow, Shannon. I can't believe you had a typo in your notes that are supposed to be so professional.
Uh-huh. Well, I also spelled Netflix wrong earlier, apparently, so...
Do you know what my sister and I call Netflix? Not to change the subject.
What?
We call it Cromcrass Nartflarks.
What?
Why?
Cromcrass Nartflarks.
Okay.
Why?
I don't know. Okay. That's just, we've always called it that.
Oh, man.
Okay, I'm gonna pretend I know how you got to that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Also, my order for my icon has been placed.
Good.
So everyone calm
Good,
down about
I'm glad.
I'll send you a picture. Bye.
Okay, so this appointment made Bass the first deputy U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi River. As far as I can tell, he's actually the first Deputy U.S. Marshal, like, at all.
Hey guys, I'm stupid. Just as an editing note, I was supposed to say there he was the first black Deputy U.S. Marshal, and I didn't say that twice, so yeah.
But like some places specify that it's west of the Mississippi, but then they don't tell me who was the first one east of the Mississippi, so I don't know if that's actually a distinction.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like the marshals weren't like super active east of the Mississippi, at least not at the same way as they were in the Indian Territory. Like other than as enforcers of the Fugitive Slave Act, until that was repealed in 1864, so they've always been problematic, at least by modern standards. By the time period, they weren't. So there may have been a black Deputy U.S. Marshal before Bass, but nobody knows who he is, and Bass is credited as the first. So, I looked, and I could not find anything about anybody else, so.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, so as...
I mean, not good, but you know.
Yeah. Okay, so as a marshal, if we can go to the next slide, Bass is in that red circle, in case y'all couldn't work that out for yourselves.
What? You mean
oh my god, wait. What did I look at today?
Oh god.
Oh, Mike and I were on Google looking at pictures of chair rails because we're redoing our house. And we're just looking at different examples of like colonial style because that's kind of, our house is like a old fucking, I'm not gonna tell you because I already told you last week where I lived, so I can't tell you what it looks like. Anyway, but there was like a red arrow pointing to the chair rail, and I was like, oh my god, is there a ghost? And it was just, I am so trained to, if I see a red arrow or a red circle in an old picture, it's a ghost. Also, holy shit, I gotta send you this picture.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Okay, so basically...
I already sent this to you.
You worry me.
Basically, Bass's job as... And I'm gonna keep saying Bass because Reeves, like that is his last name. But that was his enslaver's name. So, like, I'm gonna call him Bass. Basically, his job as a Deputy U.S. Marshal was to go round up people who had broken the law, like federal law, and take them in for trial. So, what the marshals actually are, which I probably should have put this earlier, but I didn't.
I was gonna ask, but
yeah,
I was like,
we're getting into it. Yeah.
That's fine.
Like I said, should have put it earlier. I didn't. So here we are. We're doing it now. So they are...
Feel free to look at that text from my mother.
Okay.
Anyway.
So they are a bureau within the Department of Justice. This is from the Wikipedia page. They are the enforcement arm of the federal courts to ensure the effective operation of the judiciary and integrity of the Constitution. Basically, they're federal cops. They operate... They operate in a similar fashion as state or local police, but they only arrest people for violations of federal law. Or they should anyway. There's a problem nowadays because they often work in conjunction with local police, and they arrest, like, most of the people they arrest are for violations of state law, and they're for really stupid bullshit. But then they also shoot everybody. It's a big whole thing. Go read that article I told you all about earlier.
I have a question, and I don't know if it's related.
That's fine.
Feel like you'll have an answer. The officers that are in courtrooms.
Yes.
Who are they affiliated with?
What do you mean by officer? Do you mean like the bailiffs or?
Well, when they're always like, yeah, I guess the bailiff, because they're always like, bailiff, arrest this person. Or
okay, so if they're a bailiff, they work for that court specifically.
Okay. So are they like basically just like a security officer, or are they
basically they would probably not appreciate the comparison.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's a very not accurate term, but as far as like for layman's understanding,
they work for whatever court that is. So if it's a state court, they work for that state court. If it's a federal court, they work for that federal court.
Okay.
Now, what
so
about
they're
air
not
marshals?
associated.
What, Hannah?
I said, what about air marshals?
Are you asking seriously, or?
I really don't understand, who they work for.
Because I actually don't know either. Let me Google it real quick.
Because they can arrest you on an airplane, but also they, like, pretend to be taking a
They work for the TSA, which is a Department of Homeland, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I swear there are two kinds of TSA officers, or whatever they are.
Mm-hmm.
There's the one that, like, doesn't give a shit and will, like, I don't know, just, like, hates everything about you. If you smile while you hand them your passport, they'll arrest you. And then there's the other one who's like, I really hope your flight today, on this day of our Lord, is absolutely perfect, and that you arrive safely and within the allotted time period, and that you have sweet dreams tonight, and that your lobster is baked perfectly. Like, there are two kinds of TSA people.
It's not a spectrum. It's a binary. There's only those two options.
There's only two. There can only be two.
But it's not like a half and half. It's 90% the one who's going to arrest you for, like, looking at them the wrong way, and then, like, 10%.
And then it's a rare little baby unicorn that you find.
Yeah.
It's, like, so sweet and jolly and happy, and it's like, I don't need to look at your passport. It's like, you probably shouldn't have this job. Are you new?
It's like the people at the DMV. This will get beaten out of you soon. You'll just be miserable after that.
Yep.
Ugh.
Pretty
Okay.
much.
Excuse me. Where was I? Yeah. Marshals are just federal cops, basically.
Okay.
So,
cool.
and back in... How much am I going to get into this? So, back in Bass's time, I suppose. That was a really bad way of wording that, but I'm tired. I don't know if they mostly operated in Indian Territory, but there were a shit ton of them in Indian Territory because, as I said, white people would just hang out there because they knew that the local tribes couldn't do anything to them legally. So, and it's like the Wild West, you know, like that's just the kind of vibe they had.
Yeah, it was basically like a no man's land. Like,
yeah.
You make your own rules, sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Was it? Crap. Hang on.
I'm sure there's a Clint Eastwood movie about it.
Yeah. Was it Wyatt Earp who was the marshal? Yeah, Wyatt Earp was a deputy marshal as well. Like, just to add in more people. I might cover Wyatt Earp at some point.
Ooh, yeah.
But yeah, so they would go into at least for Bass, his job is to go into Indian Territory after fugitives. And then bring them back to court so that they could be tried. That's basically it. So this is from, it's okhistory.org, but it's like the Oklahoma history website.
Oh, not like...
I know, that's why I explained it.
Not like, good job,
we
okay.
just
we
filled
tried.
in what we couldn't find.
Yeah.
And, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's mostly right.
So this is a quote. So just to explain, like, how a trip would go, I suppose. The deputies from Fort Smith rode west to Fort Reno, Fort Sill, and Anadarko, a round trip of more than 800 miles. When a deputy marshal left Fort Smith, and Fort Smith is in Arkansas, to capture outlaws in the territory, he took with him a wagon, a cook who served as a guard, and at least one, is it posseman? It's Posseman, who basically operated as a backup.
Yeah.
So basically it was him, a cook, and another body with him, basically, for 800 round-trip miles.
That's
in the 1800s, so that just sounds terrible. But, I mean, Bass did really, really well. He was an expert sharpshooter to the point that he was apparently banned from a lot of, like, local shooting competitions and, like, prize hunts and stuff like that. And he knew the languages spoken in the Indian Territory, which helped him a lot whenever he was hunting down his targets, because he could actually ask the people who lived there if they had seen the person he was looking for.
So did they basically just, like, hire him because they knew he knew the languages, essentially?
That was a huge part of it, at least from what I can tell.
And you probably did say that, and I
did a little bit. Other than the languages, and like I said, there are reports that he had, like, served as a scout and a guide beforehand because he also knew the Indian Territory.
Yeah, because he knew the area.
He knew the area.
So he knew the area really well.
Like, yeah, and he knew the languages, and he was an expert sharpshooter, and...
And if he had lived among them, they probably, like, trusted him and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So it would be better than, like, a stranger going into the territory sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure there were, like, multiple reasons. I was just...
Yeah, there were. There are a lot of, like, stories of his exploits, none of which I can confidently say happened, but they, like, contribute to the legend. One of the most commonly told ones is that he did this fairly often. Apparently, he would, like, disguise himself and, like, infiltrate a group or a camp or something, and then arrest the person he was looking for and then take them back. And so in this situation, he had walked nearly 30 miles dressed as a beggar, and he was tracking two brothers. And so when he got to their home, their mother invited him in. He arrested the brothers and then walked them back to his camp. And he just did shit like this all the time. You know, other stories have him lying.
Sorry, so he just walked 60 miles?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And half of those was leading two men who had been arrested.
Right? Like...
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then other stories have him lying in wait for days and then, like, bringing down the target with only one shot. It's just, like, stuff like that that, like, again, it contributes to a legend, but I don't know what of it actually happened. We are pretty sure that in 1883 he had a warrant for Belle Starr. And if you can go to the next slide, that's Belle Starr. She was a notorious outlaw who was involved in horse theft and bootlegging and probably a bunch of other shit, but I might cover her at some point too, so I don't want to get like,
say, she sounds like a cool lady.
Yeah, she was interesting. And she had also been harboring fugitives in the Indian Territory. And so, like, she was arrested multiple times during her life, and it's said that, like, when Bass had the warrant for her, that was the only time she willingly turned herself in because she knew it wasn't going to go well. So, yes.
I have to go emergency blow my nose.
Okay.
This never happens to me.
I didn't want to put this in because it sounded like I couldn't think of a way to phrase it without being lumped into the things she did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
She was married to a Cherokee man, which for the time was weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where the star came from. Yeah, but yeah, I didn't know how to put that in there without it being included in the list of things she did that were illegal.
Right. It's like, how do I list this as a good thing?
Yeah.
In this list of bad things.
Sorry.
Yeah, or not even, like, bad just something of
like,
note.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Hannah, you good?
Yes, that was weird.
You okay?
It was overcome. Yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure. Okay, so there are some things that we have, like, factual evidence for. So, he was a marshal for 32 years. He arrested over 3,000 people during this time.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He ended up killing 14 people, all of which he claimed were self-defense, which I don't necessarily doubt, to be perfectly honest. And some newspapers said he killed 20 people, but that's still a fairly small percentage. Regardless. My God, I made
Somebody
so
do
many...
the math. That nose goes.
So one...
Nose goes.
Okay, so one of the men he arrested was his own son.
Nice.
So if you can go to the next slide. His son, Benjamin Reeves, was charged in the murder of his wife. And, like, I think this is him. I'm, like, 99.999% sure that this is Benjamin Reeves.
Okay,
You
because
guys
I was
never
gonna
came to
say
say hi.
that looks like him.
What?
Like, this kid looks like, Bass.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he
So
does.
either this is Bass as a young person, which I don't think is the case, or it's one of his sons. So I think this is him. So, like, Bass demanded that he be the one to arrest him. He didn't want anybody else to do it. And Benjamin was convicted and served 11 years at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas, and then spent the rest of his life as a model citizen. So...
Well, alrighty then.
Yeah, I don't know why he killed his wife. I just know that he did.
Whoops.
Okay, so this was, like, pretty shocking for the time. But Bass was known to hunt down lynchers. So as a black man in what was essentially a lawless area, that was a huge risk. But whenever one
That's
was
pretty
assigned
sick,
to
though.
him, yeah. I mean, even the fact that he was able to arrest white people was unheard of at the time, because this was the era of Jim Crow laws.
Yeah.
You know, and, like, the Indian Territory wasn't necessarily subjected to those laws, but Arkansas was, and the entire South was. So for a black person to be able to arrest a white person was insane. Also, I should clarify that wouldn't have been possible in the North either. The North was not this
No, the North was not great either.
No,
but
the North.
It's just especially the South.
Yeah, it's especially the
I
South.
wonder if it's just because it was like Oklahoma and it was very much no man's land there, and so it was kind of just like they made their own laws in a way.
Well, I think it was more just he was a deputy U.S. Marshal, therefore he got to arrest people. I don't think they even factored race into it at all. That's just kind of what it seems like. But who knows?
Oklahoma, where Bass Reeves comes sweeping down the plains.
I love it! Yes. It's a much better version.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard me at the beginning, because that's when you got mad at us, but Oklahoma is the first musical that I ever saw on stage. And I don't recommend it as a first musical for a 6-year-old.
No, it's kind of boring.
It's so boring.
I haven't seen Oklahoma or even listened to it. I don't.
It's
know
really boring.
It's real boring.
The most exciting song. The two most notable songs are just about Oklahoma. The one I literally just sang, and then
I know that one.
One about taking a ride in your Surrey with the fringe on top.
Yeah, it's
all right.
That's really
not a great one. It's also very much old.
It is
very old.
Great. Okay.
When did that come out? Oh shit! I just punched Professor X right off my desk.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
It's okay.
He's mad at me. He fell onto Vincent van Gogh.
How could he?
What am I looking up? Oklahoma.
What was I saying? Right. The North
musical
was also really racist, and they profited off of slavery. So if your Republican relative is ever like, we didn't have slaves, yeah, but your ancestors profited off of it no matter what, so get the fuck over yourselves. So
Actually, can I say something?
Yes.
The most exciting part about Oklahoma is the exclamation point at the end of Oklahoma.
You are correct.
Anywho.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to Bass Reeves. So he was illiterate, which makes sense. He was raised in slavery, and it was illegal to teach slaves how to read. But he never arrested the wrong person due to the fact that he couldn't read. He would memorize the warrants and the documents that he needed, which I'm assuming somebody else read them to him. So that was never an issue. Even though he was involved in numerous shootouts, he was never wounded. He never got hit.
Damn.
Yeah.
This dude's cool.
I know. So on November 19th, 1909, the Muskogee Times Democrat, which is a newspaper from Muskogee, Oklahoma, right? Yeah. Wrote that, quote, in the early days when the Indian country was overridden with outlaws, Reeves would herd into Fort Smith, often single-handed, bands of men charged with crimes from bootlegging to murder. He was paid fees in those days that sometimes amounted to thousands of dollars for a single trip.
Holy shit.
And trips that sometimes lasted for months. We can't do the inflation calculator that far back, and plus we don't have an actual number, but that kind of money was unheard of, especially
if
for
he's
a
getting
black
thousands
man.
of dollars,
yeah,
that's...
Why wouldn't you just quit? You make bank and then you just
he'd love
Maybe
his
he
job.
just got bored if he stopped. Some people just gotta work.
We're gonna,
I guess.
Yeah, he just
See
loved his job.
See my family's most recent poster that I sent you guys a couple weeks ago.
Okay, we are almost done. So, Bass was charged with murder once. So, he was charged, there's a reason why. He was charged with murdering a posse cook, and posse, which I probably should have mentioned earlier, it's generally used colloquially to refer to various teams, cliques, or gangs, often in pursuit of a criminal suspect, sometimes without legal authority. That's from the Wikipedia page. So basically it's just a big...
So it's not a group of marshals, it's just a...
Not necessarily, but it can be.
It could be.
Yeah, so basically it's a group of dudes with guns, and they just go hunting after criminals. And sometimes they have legal authority to do so.
So they're vigilantes.
Sometimes, but sometimes they're not. sometimes they have a marshal or some other kind of law official with them, and that
they're
makes
bounty
it okay.
hunters.
Kind of, yeah. I don't know if they got paid for it.
I'm just gonna keep throwing out things that they are.
Yeah. Anyway,
okay. There's
he
a lot
accidentally
of noise because Peppa's joined the group chat.
What?
Sorry.
What?
Nothing. Keep going.
What?
Nothing. Peppa is knocking shit over, and that's why there is noise.
Okay.
Calm down. It's relaxation.
Okay, so anyway, he claims it was an accident. He shot a posse cook. He said he shot the man on accident when he was cleaning his gun, which, like, for guns for the time, I could see happening.
Yeah,
but
I could
like,
see that happening.
We don't know.
But also, if he's, like, an expert marksman.
Yeah, so, like...
Wouldn't you take the bullets out before you cleaned it?
That's what you would think. So the thing
I don't know how guns work.
You'd think that, though. The thing is, he was tried before Judge Parker, who was the man who had, like, appointed him. Which, nowadays, would raise up so many cries of a conflict of interest. And...
That'd be like if I did a crime and Shannon, you not somehow became a judge, but like...
Yeah, and I oversaw your trial.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would not be okay.
No.
And he was also represented by former U.S. Attorney W.H.H. Clayton. And the thing with that is that Clayton, I don't know if this overlapped with the trial, but he had been the chief prosecutor for Parker at some point. So,
yeah, no.
Him and Parker were, like, buddy-buddy, and then Bass was also buddy-buddy with Parker and with Clayton separately. So Bass was acquitted, and a lot of people think it was because he was friends with both of those men, which is kind of a precursor to how the marshals operate now. So.
That's not problematic.
No! So, yeah. It's fine. So, this is just kind of miscellaneous stuff with his later life. His first wife died in 1896, and he married his second wife, Winnie Sumter, in 1900. Altogether, he had 11 or 12 children. One of those was the product of an affair, but I don't know if that child factors into the official count of children or not. So he either had 11 or 12. I'm not 100% sure. So, he retired from the job in 1907 at the age of 67. Although I don't know if retired is, like, the right word, because by that point, Oklahoma had become, like, they weren't a state yet. I don't think they became a state until 1909. Crap, I looked this up earlier and then I forgot to put it down. But it had become, like, more organized, and so they didn't need as many marshals. And plus, he was 67 years old. Or, what did I say? Yeah, 67 years old. So, like... Yeah. Oh,
that's a little...
They did become a state in 1907. Okay, so that was why. They were a state now, and they didn't need marshals anymore because they were policing themselves.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so he was then hired as a city policeman in Muskogee, Oklahoma, where he served for about 2 years. He ended up quitting because he got sick. And so he died of kidney disease on January 12th, 1910. On that same day... so I guess he must have died in the morning, because that same day the Muskogee Phoenix, which was the newspaper, wrote, quote, "In the history of the early days of eastern Oklahoma, the name of Bass Reeves has a place in the front rank among those who cleansed out the old Indian territory of outlaws and desperados. No story of the conflict of government's officers with those outlaws, which ended only a few years ago with the rapid filling up of the territory with people, can be complete without..." Ugh, I should have vetted this better. I'm about to say a word that is no longer appropriate. Can be complete without mention of the man who died yesterday. I'm going to replace that word. Okay. During that time, he was sent to arrest some of the most dangerous... During that time, he was sent to arrest some of the most desperate characters that ever infested Indian territory and endangered life and peace in its borders, and he got his man as often as any of the deputies. So just... some stuff with just, like, his descendants and inspirations and stuff. So he was a great uncle of Paul L. Brady, who became the first black man appointed as an administrative law judge in 1872. I put 18,972.
It happens.
That was so long.
So it was either... It could have been a lot of different things. His great-great-great-grandson is NHL player Ryan Reeves. So if you can go to the next slide, that's Ryan Reeves. I need more slides. Some historians say that Bass was the inspiration for the Lone Ranger. So if you can go to the next slide. So, I mean, just in case people don't know, the Lone Ranger was this, like, radio character from the 1920s or so. Back when you had radio shows instead of television shows.
Yeah. That was like one of the
Don't bash
classic
radio
ones.
shows.
No, I'm not.
I've been re-listening to old radio shows. They're freaking hilarious.
Yeah, they're great. I'm not
when
bashing
they're
them at
not
all.
inappropriate. There's a lot that are really inappropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything was inappropriate.
I've been listening to Christmas ones, which are very funny.
Yeah.
You would hate it because there's a what is it called? Not a Muppet, Hannah.
A mannequin?
What's it called? Not a mannequin. There's a ventriloquist with a ventriloquist dummy. Like the ventriloquist dummy, Charlie McCarthy.
Interesting. On a radio show.
That's the doll's name. I don't even know what the man's name is. I'll send you a picture of him right now.
Okay. So one of the main proponents of this statement is a historian named Art Burton. He makes this argument based on, like, the sheer number of people that Reeves arrested, or Bass arrested, I meant to fix that, without taking any serious injury, coupled with the fact that many of those who he arrested, I can't read today either, were incarcerated in the Detroit House of Correction, and that's the same city where the Lone Ranger, like, originated, and that was where they were broadcast from. So, like, it's possible, but the theory is disputed. And so, Bass has been used as a character or as inspiration for a character in several TV shows, movies, games, and pieces of literature. One of the most recent was probably in the Watchmen show on HBO. There's a character named Will Reeves, who I guess was inspired by Bass Reeves. Like, I don't know the details because I haven't seen that show. And then, if you can go to the last slide,
That's
there is
cool,
a...
though.
Yeah, there, and then also...
Because I know Watchmen is, like, a popular...
Yeah. And then I think Morgan Freeman may be making a movie about him. I don't know.
Oh, cool.
There's been, like, some documentaries and stuff like that. So, and then for whatever reason, like, this past, like, year, there have been, like, a whole bunch of articles on Bass Reeves that are, like, new. So I don't know what all happened, like, why that happened, but it did. So he's becoming slightly more well-known, which is good.
That's cool. Good. Okay.
Yeah. And if you can go to the last slide, that is a memorial statue at Fort Smith in Arkansas, which is where he was, like, based. So that is Bass Reeves.
So was that part of Arkansas, like, originally part of the, I guess, the Indian Territory?
No, the Indian Territory became strictly Oklahoma. Arkansas was already,
Gotcha.
set. I don't think Arkansas was let me check.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. I just was like, Arkansas, I thought we were in Oklahoma.
It's
So
right on
that's just me.
They border each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arkansas has been a state since 1836, apparently. Ooh. I did not know it was that old.
Alright, then.
Yeah, so, like, yeah, the Indian Territory, it's literally Oklahoma without the handle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then where he was...
I know geography.
Yeah, where he was, like, right on the border of Arkansas and what was Indian Territory and is now Oklahoma. So...
I just want to say that is such a cool statue.
I know,
really
right?
is,
It's
like,
awesome.
That looks like the cover of, like, a really sick movie.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I said sick today in front of one of my kids. I was like, oh wow, you guys are having pizza today? Sick. And she was like, what? And then I had to explain what sick meant. And then I was like, I mean, like, sweet. And then she was like, pizza's not sweet. And I was like, I mean, I just think pizza's really rad.
Pizza's dope.
Pizza's groovy. Anyway, I've never felt older in my entire life. What? Anyway.
Oh my god, Hannah.
I also put my... Oh, Shelby, you didn't hear this part. I put my evaluation from my boss in said child's backpack and almost sent it home with them.
You know, it's fine.
Not really.
Real quick, I fact-checked that thing where I put that he became a judge in 18,972. It was 1972. That his
Okay.
Oh,
that
you
his
mean...
great-nephew became an
You
administrative
were
law
only a
judge.
few years off.
Just a little bit.
Not in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that, like, a bunch of his family members went on to do, like, great
stuff.
things
Rad
as
things.
well.
Yeah.
Sick things.
I mean, not his one son who he arrested, but
Yeah.
although it said he went on to like
I don't know.
live
Yeah,
a
he
fine
had like
life.
from everything we know, he was a model citizen after that. So
Okay, but
Although, I
he
think-
murdered
no, I
someone.
know.
I just want to
I
say.
know.
I think the part that I find like cool is that not that they allowed him to be a police officer after it became a state, but like that he did become a police officer in the area.
Yeah. And I mean, he may have been one of the earliest black officers in that town as well. I mean, that's not...
Well, just that in general, and then like, because obviously racism
Yeah.
and everything, so like
racism.
it makes sense a little bit to me that he could be like a marshal in this like lawless land, but then the fact that it like became a state, they had their own, like they didn't need the marshals anymore, but he was still able to be a police officer.
Yeah, and like he wasn't... I kind of meant to put this in, but then I didn't because I couldn't find any actual like corroboration, because like everything I told you, even the stuff I didn't know, I saw it in at least 2 different sources. So I was like, it's widespread enough that I don't feel bad like saying it. But I saw in one thing that like he was a beat cop. He wasn't a desk guy. Like he was still out there like making his rounds, and apparently whenever he was out like on the beat, all of the like criminals, quote unquote, would just like hide because they were like, we're not dealing with that guy.
I wouldn't want to deal with him.
Yeah.
Like, based on everything that I know.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it sounds like even because, like, the day he died, that, like, article came out, it sounds like he was, like, really well respected in
he totally was.
area and everything.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's nice to see that not everybody was trash back in the day.
Yeah. So...
Only a little bit. We had minuscule trash people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they still had issues, but...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he had the same power and right as a white Deputy U.S. Marshal, you know?
And that's really cool to see.
Which for the time, that was not the case.
Yeah, that would have been, like, unheard of.
Yeah, and he
Anywhere
had
else.
no schooling at all, could not read,
Yeah.
you know? It's just... Yeah, it's really...
But he was really friggin' good at his job.
Yeah, he was. And I just think it's a cool story, and it's one that doesn't get, at least to white people, doesn't get told very often.
For sure.
I can't speak for non-white people in any context, but in this one especially, I don't know like how widespread his story is among people who are not white. But for people who are white, it's not super... Like, I literally didn't know about this until I saw it on Tumblr.
I wonder if it's like they teach it in Oklahoma, but
maybe
like, we would never hear about it.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Oklahoma.
I don't either. I mean, I had to Google a whole lot.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist, so.
I had to Google a whole lot about Oklahoma for this.
Right.
Well, then, like, I couldn't remember, like, how the territory worked. Like, I know how territories work, but, like, I couldn't.
Yeah,
there
but,
was
like,
just,
where
like,
the
little
borders were and everything.
Yeah, and, like, I wanted to include the part about why Oklahoma has a handle, just because I think it's interesting, and...
For sure.
Like, for people who are outside of the U.S., or even people within the U.S., our state shapes are completely arbitrary, and they're made up of stupid decisions like this.
Did you guys even look at that thing that I sent you a long time ago about the states being, like, mashed up with other states?
Oh, yeah.
Because I live in I don't, what do I live in? Oh, I live in New Maine, but I wish I lived in Hawaii. I have a question.
Yes, I might have an answer.
Is kerosene spelled with a C or a K?
It's a K.
Okay.
Why is Amazon telling me otherwise?
To know?
I typed it in
I'm just wondering.
I typed it in the Facebook chat.
Just now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just
Holy
typed
shit,
it in.
you're so fast.
I already had it pulled up.
Why did you have kerosene?
No, I had Facebook pulled up.
Facebook.
I had Facebook pulled up, and I know how to
I was
spell
just typing
kerosene.
Listen, I know how to spell it too.
Okay.
But this is saying that it's spelled with a C, and I don't
Well, they're wrong.
believe it.
Kerosene is not spelled with a C.
Listen, I'm aware.
Are you, though? Because you had to ask.
I am. It's one thing I'm confident in because I typed it at least 14 fucking times in this novel that I wrote. There's no electricity in the gulag, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, holy shit. Did you hear that crash landing?
What the heck is happening over there?
It's my whale breaching.
What?
Are we good?
Yeah, I'm good. Hannah's
Okay.
saying nonsense. Okay.
It's a good night.
Our ending is that we have no ending.
Wait a minute.
No? Oh my god.
Wait, everybody
God.
stop.
Oh God.
Everybody stop.
Hannah.
This kerosene is kosher.
Okay.
I just thought you should know that. Okay, goodbye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Send you a picture. Bye. Thanks for listening to The Triad. Our music is by Scott Buckley. Our audio is recorded by our sound engineers, Craig Bott and Audrey Credo.
If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Tumblr as The Triad Podcast. Our website is thetriadpodcast.wordpress.com. There, you can find information about our latest episode, including the show notes and sources.
We're also on Patreon as The Triad. Currently, all Patreon funds will go towards the cost of hosting the show. Each tier has its own rewards, but every patron receives our undying gratitude. Do you have comments, questions, or stories? Email us at thetriadpod@gmail.com. And thank you again for listening to The Triad, where we're spooky but sensitive.